Welcome to the SEC Unfiltered platform. I appreciate you guys listening to all of our content on all our channels and platforms. I know I speak on behalf of everyone from the SEC Unfiltered family when saying that, but I am your host, Dave Shumate, longtime college personnel staffer, personnel director in the SEC, 9 years of college football experience, and I'm here to give you the top 5 impact players for Brent Venables and the Oklahoma Sooners heading into their first season in the SEC, in the Southeastern Conference in the 2024 season. But guys, as you know, we got to pay bills. We got to keep the lights on around here. And the guys keeping the lights on today, guys, as we know, Prize Picks, our buddies over at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com and use code SECU at sign up to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 plus lineup. Guys, I did it last year. I think I did a prop with Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, that Sunday night game against Florida State in Orlando. Is fun. Just some fun, different kind of bets that you don't get at a lot of other places. But again, guys, if you're going to use our guys' Prize Picks, I highly encourage you to do it starting this weekend with the Georgia Tech Florida State game. But use code SECU for that all SEC game, all ACC game, I should say, and at sign up you'll get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 or more lineup. Go say hey to our buddies over at Prize Picks and tell them your guys over at SEC Unfiltered sent you over. But let's get to why you are here, guys. The top 5 impact players for the Oklahoma Sooners heading into 2024. Their first season in the SEC. People talking about the schedule. How does Oklahoma transition in the first season in the league? People are highly hyping up Texas. People, I feel like Oklahoma's kind of taking a little bit of a backseat. I don't think that's fair. But if you aren't familiar with this segment, this series, I've done every team alphabetical order. We're going to go reverse chronological order. We're going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'll give you, save the best for last. But coming in at number 5, we're going to start with Brent Venables' baby. Zach Alley, Brent Venables' baby. On defense, the safety spot, maybe under the radar to some. I don't think so in Norman, if you've been paying attention to the end of the season last year, spring ball and fall camp. It's none other than safety Robert Spears Jennings. The Sooner fans know, are loaded at safety. Billy Bowman, Peyton Bowen, Robert Spears Jennings. They've all played really well. I mean, Spears Jennings specifically has played well in fall camp. I thought he's played really well the last 3 games of the year. Kind of felt like he was coming into his own a little bit. Like I mentioned, they had Billy Bowman, Peyton Bowen, and now they have RSJ. Or they still have RSJ, obviously. But he's the guy, I feel like it takes that next step. It could make that defense. I mean, it's already a really good defense. It's the defense I have the least amount of question marks on, even at all 3 levels. I feel like everyone kind of has an issue on defense at some level, a lot of it in the secondary. And Oklahoma is kind of an embarrassment of riches. I mean, no other safety groups as loaded as these 3 guys. I mean, between Bowman, and RSJ. And then add in new DC Zach Alley, coming over from Jacksonville State, was with Brent Venables as a GA at Clemson. I think he's going to have a blast playing with these chess pieces. And it seems like from reading some of the post-practices, post-scrimmage interviews, talking to people in Norman, that Robert Spears Jennings is really taking a liking to Zach Alley, a younger guy, can relate well, kind of simple it down to the players where they can just go kind of react and play. I mean, it's not what you know, it's what your players know. You're not the one going on the field. You can be the smartest coach, technician in the world, but if your players aren't comprehending that and bringing it from the meeting room to the practice field to game day, does it really matter? Does it really matter what you know if they don't? Also, it's like being a teacher. And I think Zach Alley has done that. I think Robert Spears Jennings is really kind of come into his own. I expect him to have a big year. Again, you could put Billy Bowman in this, you put Peyton Bowen in this conversation, but I think Robert Spears Jennings is going to have the bigger impact. Because again, we know what Billy Bowman can do. We know he's a leader of that defense. We know he's the big brother in that safety room. We know what he can do. But the impact, Bowman's already going to have an impact. I think that next impact at that safety spot, I'm telling you, it's going to be RSJ in 2024. Going to number 4, we're going to stay on the defensive side of the ball. Again, I love this defense. Number 4. Linebacker, pretty similar to how I did the safety spot. We're not going to go with the obvious here, Danny Stutzman. We're going to go with Kip Lewis, listed at 6'1", 221. He's put on some good weight, I've heard, this offseason. That's the Oklahoma website that listed at 6'1", 221. I don't even know if he's that. But Lewis, who is described as a, quote, ball magnet by Brent Venables himself, ended the year last year with 66 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack and a fumble recovery. Again, Danny Stutzman is a beast, the guy right next to him, and he's the leader of this defense. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But obviously, when Stutzman was out in that Kansas game and in the Bedlam game, those 2 weeks Oklahoma lost those 2 games, you could tell the unit struggled. But I also think they're going to be better for it this year. I think they're going to be better because of it this year, I should say. Kip Lewis had to kind of man up, step up, become more of a vocal leader. You read interviews, you see interviews with him from fall camp, going back to the spring. That's made him better, more of a vocal leader. I mean, if Stutzman can just stay healthy and they let Kip Lewis go be that ball magnet, go fly around, play sideline to sideline, he is going to be a problem for the offenses that are on the Sooners schedule. I'm just telling you, I think Kip Lewis is going to have a big year for Oklahoma. There's a lot of big names, like I mentioned, Danny Stutzman, Billy Bowen, but these guys that are those 2 and 3s at the linebacker and safety spots, they're going to be the big impact players, I think, that kind of push Oklahoma over the edge to overachieving in their first year in the SEC. I like what Kip Lewis is going to do. I think he's going to have a big year. They just let him go play, and Danny Stutzman can make all the calls at the line of scrimmage, be that leader. Just Kip Lewis, hey, see ball, get ball. Let's go be an explosive playmaker at the second level on the defensive side of the ball. So Kip Lewis coming in at number 4 for me. Coming in at number 3, we are going to go to the offensive side of the ball, guys. I promise. Just a little heads up, I'll probably stay here. But number 3, tight end. This probably takes some by surprise. Bauer Sharp, transferred over from Southeastern Louisiana, former quarterback himself. I think he's from Dothan, Alabama. When I was doing my research, I remember him vaguely as a prospect coming out because we recruit that area a lot. You get film from high school coaches from like Dothan. Hey, man, go check my guy out, see what you think. Well, he only had 1 scholarship offer at quarterback. Went there, I think, redshirted in 2021, but transitioned to tight end in 2 seasons at Southeastern Louisiana, just because some people like to see the stats. I'm just giving you kind of a gauge of what he did. Produced 582 yards from scrimmage, 9 touchdowns, and averaged 7 yards per catch. The reports, though, so far make me even more excited than I already was after watching the film and seeing the upside. I mean, the 6'4", 250-pounder is extremely athletic for his size. As you can see, the way he controls his body in and out of his routes. Just an athletic guy at 6'4", 250. Also, he's willing to stick his nose in the honey. What I mean by that, he's willing to put his face mask on another person's face mask and drive them off the ball and move people off the line of scrimmage. He's kind of that hybrid, can do it all, jack of all trades, Swiss Army knife guy. And he's also going to be, I think he's going to provide an early nice safety blanket early for Jackson Arnold. He understands the quarterback position. He's played it a lot of his life. He's played quarterback more than he's played tight end, but he's just getting into that tight end spot with Joe John Finley, a former quarterback, tight end at Oklahoma, his position coach. They kind of know the processes each other went through, the learning cycle of that. And I think with Oklahoma, we know their offensive line, not issues, but unknowns rolling into the season. I think that's going to be an early safety valve for Jackson Arnold early in the season. I really do. I think that can only help him. I keep hearing a name they always start here, and this is always the classic name that's thrown around from these guys that's kind of the hybrid athletes that have a quarterback background. Taysom Hill from the Saints, from BYU, who we all remember. Maybe we see a little belldozer type package for him on the goal line, similar to what the Saints do with Taysom Hill. That's where I could see him fitting in, just collecting some touchdowns, being that 3rd and 4. Hey, we're going to use him as the flanker, the sniffer coming across. We hit him out in the flats. I think he's that guy. He can win at all 3 levels. I don't think a lot of linebackers and safeties can cover him. I think teams going into the season are going to under-scheme him until he starts putting some stuff on film. And I think on the back half later of the year, teams will start worrying about him more. But I'm talking about those games against like maybe Tennessee and Auburn. He could go make his name in. Tulane early in the year. It could really help Jackson Dart kind of get his feet wet. I know he played against Arizona, played a little bit in the BYU game, but could really help him early on get into a rhythm. So I got number 3, the Southeastern Louisiana tight end transfer, Bauer Sharp. Coming in at number 2. We've all heard this one. Number 2, wide receiver Dion Burks, coming over from Purdue, had 47 receptions, 629 yards, and 7 touchdowns in 2023. Explosive threat waiting to happen. I would honestly say he can win at every level, and that's tough to say at 5'9" that you see a lot of that. It reminds me a little bit of a smaller Deebo Samuel. I think he is smaller. He's not as thick, obviously. But Deebo Samuel's probably 5'10", 5'11". I mean, he's going to be listed at 6 foot. Come on, you always got to take off an inch or two. I think Dion Burks is closer to that 5'9" range, one of the rare instances that he's listed correctly. But he doesn't have the mass on the frame that Deebo has. But Deebo can win at all 3 levels. And I think Dion Burks can bring that at least to the college level. Again, stronger than his size suggests, and still has the athletic ability and body control. You see that on his film to go win at the 3rd level. Factor in wide receiver coach who I worked with at Kansas, Emmett Jones, should only help him improve his game And I think he will at least be a top 2 to 3, if not number 1 primary target for Jackson Arnold once the Sooner offense really gets going. So I think number 2, Deion Burks, is going to be that guy on the outside that's going to be have the most impact. I mean, you got Nick Anderson, you got Jalil Farouk, but I think Deion Burks is going to be impact. Again, this is a ranking of impact players, not best 1 through 5. That brings me to number 1. I told you guys, it's more important than ever in this sport. It's the most important position in the sport of football, and I'll venture to say it's the most important position in all sports. The quarterback spot. Number 1 coming in, quarterback Jackson Arnold, had his ups and downs in the Alamo Bowl. Not going to read you the box score, but I think it was, 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Can't be having that a lot. I mean, he had a rough first scrimmage. I remember 3 interceptions again. That would be my concern, and Oklahoma fans know this. It's a smart, football-savvy fan base. They know he's a little turnover prone early. He's a young guy that's gonna improve. Again, three interceptions in the first scrimmage. I hear he had a much better second scrimmage. Don't know the stats of that. Hadn't really talked about it since that. But I did hear he had a better, more comfortable second scrimmage. Should Oklahoma fans be concerned about the turnovers? I think it's almost like setting your mind, hey, I need to come to expect it at least once a game, at least early on in the season, because he's got a little gunslinger mentality where he's going to try to fit stuff into tight windows. But I do think he's going to have the biggest impact. It could be for the good or bad. I mean, it's the most important position in all of sports. You're only going to go as far as your quarterback is. Your quarterback has to be a top 3 or 4 player, maybe let's go 5 player on your roster now to go win a championship and compete at the level at schools like Oklahoma expect to compete at it on a year-to-year basis. It's not back in the day where you can have, I hate the term game manager because all quarterbacks are game managers and dispersers to some extent, but like just don't turn the ball over. Like, no offense to Greg McElroy, but like Greg McElroy is the prototypical guy that I think, hey, don't turn the ball over. Just don't go lose this in the game. You got to have a guy that can go win you games and be one of your best players. Now, Jackson Arnold can't go lose Oklahoma games with his turnovers. They're going to have a phenomenal defense. You can't give opposing offenses short fields off your turnovers if you're Jackson Dart. Put your defense, who doesn't have a lot of question marks, in bad spots. That could get Oklahoma in trouble in their first 2 conference games if that were to happen against teams like Tennessee and at Auburn. But Jackson Arnold, I love the upside. He could be the guy I think that we may be talking about as one of the better quarterbacks in the league heading into 2025. I think he's going to have an impact either good or bad this year. I believe in him long term, but he's going to have a massive impact on whether Oklahoma wins 7 games or they win 9. I think it's kind of that. He's going to have a message. That's not breaking news for anybody. He's the quarterback. He touches the ball every play. Again, most important player on the field. But the turnovers will be something I want to keep an eye on as the season progresses. I expect them early in the season. I think anyone who's realistic, a good football mind, should expect that as well. I want to see how he develops, how he continues to get better with Seth Luttrell. So that's what I'll be looking to see. But Jackson Arnold coming in at number 1, coming is no surprise. But just missing the cut, just want to go through some guys. Oklahoma had a lot of guys I think you could add on this list. Jacob Sexton. I know I didn't have an offensive lineman on there. They're replacing 5 guys. They need to find some consistency. He's going to be one of the 5 guys, whether he's starting at tackle or guard on the inside. I think Sexton's a guy that could be an impact player. I think North Texas transfer, the guard, I think right guard spot. Fabechi Wawu could be in that as well. You could have easily made an argument. I could have brought in one of the offensive linemen on there because it's a very important position for Oklahoma this year. Obviously, I think Bill Bedenbaugh does one of the best jobs out of all the offensive line coaches in the country. He'll get them up to par. He'll get the most out of that group. He'll get all the juice out of those oranges. He really will. But which one of those guys can take an impact? Both wide receivers, Nick Anderson, Andre Anthony, Jalil Farouk, could all be in this. I think defensively, Ethan Downs is a player to watch. I think he could be in it. We mentioned Danny Stutzman at linebacker, and we mentioned Billy Bowman at safety. You can add in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All 7 of those guys could fit into this top 5 list. But I really thought from an impact, kind of like, hey, we know what we get with Billy Bowman. We know what we get with Danny Stutzman. I know what I'm getting in Jalil Farouk. I know what I'm getting in Nick Anderson. Like maybe some under the radar guys. That's why I wanted to bring it on. But just wrapping it up, going 5 through 1 right here. Coming in at number 5, top impact players for the Sooners heading into their first year in the SEC. Number 5, safety, Robert Spears Jennings. Thinks he takes that next spot. I mean, the embarrassment of riches at that safety spot for the Sooners. Number 4, Kip Lewis. Danny Stutzman says he's healthy. Just let Kip Lewis go make plays. Let him go be that undersized backer. And undersized backers can win in college, guys. I saw it firsthand with Deshaun Davis at Auburn. Undersized linebacker that was really productive. Sometimes that undersized can let them play with better leverage. So I think Kip Lewis has a big year, plays with his hair on fire. Tight end, Bauer Sharp, coming over from Southeastern, former quarterback, transition over. His position coach, Joe John Finley, had the same path, former quarterback, played tight end at Oklahoma. I think he's going to be an early positive presence for a guy like Jackson Arnold. He knows how to play the position. He's going to be that short intermediate. And I think safeties and linebackers in this league are going to be shocked how athletic he is. Number 2, Deion Burks, coming over from Purdue. Emmett Jones, the wide receivers coach, has a plethora of weapons on the outside as well. Deion Burks joins the party. And then number 1, I mentioned it, the most important position on the field, the most important position in all sports. Number 1, quarterback, Jackson Arnold. I think he's going to be obviously the big difference between anywhere from 7 to 9 wins for the Sooners in their first year in the SEC. But guys, I appreciate you joining us on this segment of the top 5 impact players for the Oklahoma Sooners heading in to 2024. Guys, go like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You do not want to miss all the content we're bringing to you this college football season from the SEC Unfiltered platform, guys. We're on all podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you find, man, wherever you get it, you can always find our content. But guys, I appreciate you joining us, and you have a phenomenal afternoon.